Hello and welcome back. I'm Natalie MacDonald and you're joining us here at FundForum Asia 2016. It's my pleasure now to be welcomed by Scott McLaren, Head of Hong Kong at Brown Brothers Harriman. Scott, welcome to the FundForum. It's a pleasure to have you here today.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so China's liberalisation process has sped up somewhat, although admittedly stuttering ever so slightly. Now with more channels introduced, we've also got access extended. Do you see that pace continuing or perhaps slowing?
Well, I definitely see it continuing. It's really, I think, what we're looking at now is a balance of the inbound and outbound flow, and that's a deliberate control, so it might feel like a stop-start. I mean, at the beginning of the China summit, we compared that to a little bit like accelerator brake, and I think the important takeaway there is that there is a controlled liberalization of access points to the market. The pace will continue. Obviously, there's a firm belief, as we've heard, in long-term growth potential of China, but we will see some short-term interventions, things like the circuit breaker that we saw last year, to control that inbound-outbound flow.
How do you see Hong Kong developing as sort of an asset management centre, and also how important is China to Hong Kong's ambitions?
I think it's very important, and if you look at some statistics of just the mutual fund growth in this market over the past 5 or 6 years, there are a number of incentives that has drawn asset managers to this market to establish locally domiciled funds. I think we're up from 100 funds to over 650 now in a short space of time, 5 or 6 years. Those two incentives largely, the opportunity for managers to establish our QFI funds in Hong Kong in 2011, and now, of course, what's on everybody's minds is mutual recognition, which really was announced or kicked off last July, but really only started in January of this year. So we're only really 3 months into that, but we're seeing global managers establishing a presence here. We're seeing Chinese managers establish a broader platform here in Hong Kong. The prize and the business case, of course, is China, access to China, particularly for the globals coming in, or what we call the West goes East flow. But I think it's important there are avenues that are emerging, for example, like access to Taiwan, which I think is a longer term initiative as well.
But also almost the other way around, what are some of the challenges and also opportunities that Chinese managers face when seeking to branch out abroad?
Okay, and we call that East goes West, which is the opposite flow. And we've seen some very encouraging uptake or expansion of the top 20 Chinese asset managers expanding overseas in key markets like the European markets, Luxembourg, and Ireland to an extent, and also into the US. Some of the challenges that I think are obvious really is there is a different set of regulations operating in those markets. So the Chinese asset managers are really learning the ropes when it comes to the regulators in Europe, regulators in the US. And then, of course, probably the bigger one is the asset raising capabilities. Brand recognition at this early stage is difficult, so getting brand recognition. And then a response to that is really some form of partnership. So we've seen Chinese managers teaming up with well-known brands in those markets that I've mentioned, and then some going alone. So I think it's asset raising is the main one.
Scott, many thanks.
Thank you very much.
Scott McLaren, the Head of Hong Kong at Brown Brothers Harriman. That is all we've got time for right now. Goodbye.